Howdy everyone, Hobby Ride here. So Pedro Grifol has unfortunately been fired by the White Sox, being replaced by Grady Sizemore, but that got me to thinking, who else could be on the hot seat? Let's get to it. Let's start off with Ron Washington. They recently brought him in this past offseason. He's a well-respected manager across Major League Baseball. I don't really see why you would get rid of him at this point, especially considering the fact the Angels are pretty far away. So I say he's there for at least the next couple of years, so I'll say he's safe for now. Moving on to Mark Kotsay. He's been there for a few years, and while there hasn't really been much winning, they do like him there, shown by the fact that they've already exercised his club option for 2025. They're probably heading to Sacramento before they head to Vegas, so I think he'll be there at least through that as they continue to rebuild, so I say he's safe for now. Joe Espada just recently replaced the legendary Dusty Baker, and while things were a bit bumpy in the beginning of the year, they've turned it around as of late. They're back in contention. I don't really see any reason why he would be in danger at this point, so I say he's safe. Moving on to John Schneider, and oh boy, things have gone south for the Blue Jays in the last couple of years. It wasn't too long ago when people were ready to crown the Blue Jays as World Series winners, but since then, they flamed out in the postseason last year, and this year has been terrible for Toronto. I think he also called someone on the Yankees fat boy. Yeah, you probably shouldn't be doing that. I think there's a chance they hang on to him and run it back in 2025 after some retooling this offseason, but I think there is some heat there with the Blue Jays expecting to contend again in 2025. I think there's a chance if he's still there next year and they get off to a slow start, then they could go with someone else, like how the Phillies did with Joe Girardi. Overall, I say he's on the hot seat. On to the Braves and Brian Snitker, and I'm going to be honest, it's crazy to see the Braves outside of the playoff picture at this point. I mean, for crying out loud, who saw the Mets ahead of the Braves at this point? That is redonkulous, but hey, let's face it, they've had some injuries this year to some of the best players on their team. For Snitker, though, I think there's 0% chance he ends up getting fired. He's been with that organization forever. He won a World Series a couple of years ago, and I think he'll end up retiring before any question of him getting fired. I think in the end, he is completely safe. How about Pat Murphy and the Brewers this year? It seemed like the sky was falling when Craig Counsell left for the Cubs, but here are the Brewers comfortably leading the division. While the pitching has been on the thinner side this year, the offense is way better than it's been for the last couple of years, and he's gotten a lot out of this team. I think Murphy is completely safe. Not too long ago, people were ready and excited to move on from Oliver Marmol after their first losing season since 2007 last year, and a slow start this year, but then they started playing better. How times change quickly, though, and the Cardinals have been slumping a little bit as of late. I don't think he's necessarily on the hot seat considering his contract runs through 2026, but I would say if the team doesn't pick it up down the stretch, then there might be questions about his future. I say he's warm right now. Earlier, I mentioned Craig Counsell leaving the Brewers, and while Cubs fans were excited at the time, it hasn't exactly gone according to plan. Counsell got the largest contract ever for a manager this past offseason, so of course he's safe, but you would like to see the Cubs at least be a bit better than this, right? But who knows, maybe they make a run here in the last couple of months, but like I said, I think Counsell is safe. Moving on to the D-backs, and yeah, Torey Lovullo, he's safe. They made it to the World Series last year, and yeah, they got off to a slow start this year, but they're 39-21 since the beginning of June. Lovullo is not going anywhere anytime soon. I feel like Dodgers fans have been saying Dave Roberts is on the hot seat forever now, but this year, I actually do think there's a chance the Dodgers move on from him if they don't make a deep playoff run. And lately, the Dodgers have not been playing all that great. They've had a ton of injuries, and both the Padres and the Diamondbacks are within 4 games of the division. Who saw that coming? I think at this point, with how close it's gotten in the division, along with the fact that they've had early exits in the last few years, this has to be a make or break year for Dave Roberts, especially after adding so much talent this past offseason, including one guy who goes by the name of Shohei Ohtani. I don't know if you know him or not. Personally, I think Dave Roberts is on the hot seat. The Giants just added Bob Melvin this past offseason, but the Giants have been pretty underwhelming so far. They've been playing a bit better as of late, though, and they're only a few games out in the wild card race. I think because Melvin was just brought in, he's safe for now. After many years of the legendary Terry Francona, the Guardians turned to Stephen Vogt this past offseason, and hey, it's been solid so far. Yes, they've been slumping lately. They've lost 5 straight games. They've been playing 500 balls since the beginning of June, but I think since they just brought him in, it's a younger team, and they've had success. I think he is safe. The Mariners had a lot of expectations coming into this year, and for the most part up to this point, it's been a lackluster season for them so far. Sure, the pitching has been great as expected, but the offense has been downright terrible. They did bring in Randy Arozarena and Justin Turner by the deadline. Both J-Rod and Crawford should be back at some point, and hopefully some of the guys in the lineup can get it going here down the stretch. But I think up to this point, though, with how underwhelming this team has been and how bad the offense has been, they might need to go in a different direction after this year. If they don't get it figured out, I think in the end, you gotta say Scott Servais is on the hot seat. Howdy everyone, Robbie from the future here. So I uploaded this video yesterday and I got a comment asking, do the Marlins exist? And I was like, well, frick, I forgot to do the Marlins. So here we are. Let's talk about Skip Shoemaker. So it's pretty much expected the 2023 NL Manager of the Year will be managing elsewhere next year. Peter Bendix came into the fold last offseason, and the Marlins stink. So combine those two things, and Skip Shoemaker is probably gone. As for this, though, I guess you could say he's on the hot seat, but it's not because he's done a bad job. I think it's more of a mutual thing that he simply just finds a better fit this offseason. Lots of people weren't really sure what the Mets were going to be this season, since this year was looked at as more of a bridge kind of a year. But like I said earlier, who saw the Mets being ahead of the Braves at this point? They've been playing great baseball after bringing in Carlos Mendoza, and with younger players coming up over the next couple of years, I think for the most part, he's safe. Dave Martinez and the Nationals haven't had a winning season since winning the World Series in 2019, so it might be easy to say he is on the hot seat. In the end, though, they're going through a rebuild, and the Nats have looked better this year, so I think he's safe for now, but they're going to have to take a step forward next year. The Orioles have been one of the best teams in baseball this year, and I think a big reason for that is the 2023 Manager of the Year, Brandon Hyde, who also has my last name. How about that? There's been a ton of young talent that's come up in the last couple of years. He's gotten a lot of success out of them. I think Brandon Hyde is absolutely safe. The Padres just brought in Mike Shildt this past offseason, and so far so good. The Padres are 33-23 since the beginning of June, and they hold the first wild card spot as of right now. I do think Shildt is safe, but I wonder if they don't make a deep playoff run in the next couple of years, you'll see the Padres maybe turn towards someone else, considering the last time they had a manager last more than 3 years was Bud Black from 2007 to 2015. In the end, I think Shildt is safe, but I'm going to say he's safe for now. Ever since the Phillies replaced Joe Girardi with Rob Thompson in 2022, all they've done is win, and they're still one of the best teams in baseball this year. Thompson is signed through 2025, so he's safe, but I do wonder with the competitive window they're in, and if they don't win it all in the next couple of years, could they perhaps turn to someone else at some point? I don't know. We'll see, but I think ultimately he is safe with how well the Phillies have been playing. Derek Shelton's been running the show for the Pirates over the last couple of years as they've gone through a rebuild, and over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of young talent come up the pipe, and the Pirates have been getting a bit better. I think ultimately Shelton will be rewarded as he's gone through this rebuild, and he'll get the chance to see if they can take a step forward in 2025. If they don't, though, I do wonder what his job status will be, so I'll go with safe for now. Bruce Bochy came out of retirement to manage the Rangers last year, and hey, that wasn't too bad as they won a World Series. Bochy is one of the best of all time, and even though the Rangers are having a hangover season, this is Bochy's job until he doesn't want it anymore. I think he is safe. It feels like Kevin Cash has been with the Rays forever now, and they've had a lot of success under him, and sure, they're kind of retooling right now, but you know the Rays are going to be fine. I don't see Cash going anywhere, and I'd be surprised if he did. I think he's safe. There were a lot of expectations for the Reds this year, but they had a ton of injuries, and this season basically turned into a lost one. Overall, Bell has a winning percentage under .500, but they've been going through a rebuild over the last few years, so I do think he'll get another chance next year, but if they don't get this in the right direction, I do think the Reds could end up making a change. So for David Bell, I think he's warm. Simply put, and excuse Giraffe Neck Robbie entering the chat, but Alex Cora is one of the best managers in the game. There weren't a lot of expectations for the Red Sox this year, and here they are, just a game and a half behind the Royals in the wild card race. The Red Sox also just signed Alex Cora to a much-deserved extension, so yeah, Alex Cora, he's safe. Now, I know a lot of people might disagree with what I'm about to say, but I think the Rockies are going to show some improvement over the next couple of years, and maybe they could be closer to competing than you might think. Now, hear me out. They have a ton of young talent coming up in the next year or two, and they have 5 prospects in the top 100 on pipeline, which doesn't include their number 3 pick, Charlie Condon, from this year's draft, by the way. Now, the question is, do they stick with Bud Black? He hasn't had a winning season since 2018, but he's gone through this entire rebuild, so so I think he'll end up getting a chance to stay, but I do wonder if the Rockies could go with someone new in the next couple of years as they enter a new era, with all these new players coming up. I'll say he's safe for now. I think you could also say maybe he's warm, but I'll say safe for now. The Royals brought in Matt Cotrero a couple of years ago, and after a terrible 2023, they had a big offseason, and it's paying off as they're in the wild card hunt as of right now. Because the Royals are playing well, and he hasn't really been there too long, I think he's safe. The Tigers had high hopes for this year, but this season has basically turned into another lost one. This is A.J. Hinch's 4th season now, and when you combine the fact that the Tigers front office has made moves, they've had young players come up the pipe, but they haven't done all that much. I think you could also include how much of a bust their number 1 pick from 2020, Spencer Torkelson, has been. Personally, I think when you combine all of that, I think A.J. Hinch is on the hot seat. This is Rocco Baldelli's 6th season with the Twins now, and when you combine the fact that they've had a good team the last couple of years, along with all the young players they have coming up, I think Rocco Baldelli's job is safe. Moving on to the newest manager on the block, Grady Sizemore. After the White Sox dismissed Pedro Grifol, they went with a bit of a surprise in Sizemore, and hey, why not? To be honest, I actually hope he turns into a good manager because that man had so much bad luck with the injuries in his career. I do think the White Sox will give him a shot here to possibly be a long-term manager, so I think he's safe for now, but if things get worse, I think they end up turning to someone else, so in the end, I'll say he's warm. And last but not least, we got Aaron Boone. I feel like there have been so many chances for the Yankees to move on from Boone after they've fallen short so many years, but here he is, still managing the team. This year feels a little bit different though, because they have Juan Soto, who's been amazing. They just brought in Jazz Chisholm as well. In the end, while he does have a great relationship with the front office, I'll say he's warm because look, you got a lot of talent to work with here, and if they don't make a postseason run, I would imagine the Yankees might head in a different direction, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up staying. But those are my thoughts. Tell me what you think of this list. Tell me all your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you think any of these managers down here near the bottom could be warm or even on the hot seat? Let me know what you think. But everyone, that's all I got for this video. If you can on the way out, hit that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.